So, well, thanks obviously to Tarqueño. He's a longtime friend and supporter. Maybe I say a few comments about his presentation, because he cut out in a few places, and there's one new name that he introduced that I'd like to explain. So, the thing about Mexico, of course, you remember that in 2013 we delivered the first System 3000 Plus to the Saltillo foundry. And they hope that by transferring production there, and they'll be inside the NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, and that will make them more attractive to the North American customers and grow the business in North America. MWM, he mentioned as a Brazilian engine company, and this is an affiliate of Navistar. So for those of you who know the Navistar 11 and 13 liter max force big bore engines that we supply, that's actually the Navistar. So they supply locally for pre-machining in Brazil at MWM, and then MWM sends the pre-machine components to Huntsville, Alabama for final machining and assembly. So that's the Navistar program. Yeah, and the supplier quality index, that was a pity that he cut out then because he was talking about us. And I'm pretty sure what he said was that we're wonderful and that he wishes all of the suppliers were exactly like us. I was reading the lips. Okay, so I think by my count, this is my 20th AGM presentation. It's my 14th as a CEO. And I remember the nerves as a young technical director. And of course, I also remember some nerves in the early years as CEO and in some of the more difficult years as CEO. And nerves are normal, but they're balanced and offset by, in some ways, experience, and by seeing familiar and friendly faces in the audience and in the board deck. And also by having a good story. And we do have a good story, and I'm happy to be here this afternoon to share that with you. So let's start by looking at this familiar plot that we all know from the front page of our interim reports. It shows our growth since 2007, and you can see that we have a consistent and clear growth trend. And with the exception of two dips in 2008, when the US downturn happened, and in 2012 with the European downturn, it's more or less a straight line. And as engineers, we try to make correlations between data and fit them to different to lines. And there's a simple statistical test called the R-squared correlation coefficient. And this measures the goodness of fit between data and a line. And if you apply that simple little R-squared test, this trend fits a straight line with 88% accuracy. Yeah? So really a good and clear and consistent growth. We broke 2 million engine equivalent barriers in the first quarter and particularly in March. I've said in some of the previous interviews, the online interviews after the quarterly reports, that we had been close and hovering around 2 million for several months. It's fun to note that in September of 2014, we had 1,999,812. So we were so very close, but we didn't want to round it up. And in terms of our highest volume program, which Tarqueño was mentioning, where Ford continues to ask for more capacity, the 6.7 liter V8, that would represent something like 55 engine blocks. Yeah? And the monthly production is something approaching 20,000 per month. So imagine that we missed by 55 pieces. But we didn't want to round it up back then. We wanted to wait until we had a clear breaking of the 2 million engine equivalent. And we did that in March. We did it solidly with 2.2 million. The trend shows continued growth, and we are still ramping with the current production. And we've said before that the current programs have the potential to give more than 2.5 million engine equivalents. So there's more growth available. And then, of course, from the programs that Tarqueño mentions about being approved and in the pipe for this future growth, they give us an opportunity to reach the 3 million engine equivalent milestone and to provide continuous growth after that. And while Tupi is our biggest and most important partner, we also have approved programs with other customers. So there's a lot of continuous growth opportunity. We can look at the growth in terms of the compounded annual growth rate, and we calculate that from 2007 all the way up to 2014-15. And what we see from this is an average of 18%. Yeah, and coincidentally, our growth from 2014 to 2015 was equally 18%. And what that means is that the production is actually accelerating, because of course it's a lot more difficult to get 18% of 2 million than it is to get 18% of 1 million in terms of the absolute growth. So you can see that we're really accelerating to keep the same growth rate. We can look in more detail, and here we see the production numbers from the first quarter, from 2009 until today. And the split is quite similar to what it was last year. We have 54% car, 37% truck, and 9% others. And by others, we mean automotive components other than block and head, and also industrial power components. And we're really happy that these other components have been able to hang on to that 10% share, even as the total production increases. And I'd just like to clarify here for a moment, that Ford 6.7 liter V8, we account for that in the car category. And the reason for that is that when it started production, we regarded it more as the F-250 Super Duty pickup, more as a vehicle for individual personal mobility rather than for freight hauling on the open roads. And this is how we distinguish between car and truck. Is it used by an individual, or is it used for hauling goods? So over the years, Ford has applied that engine in other applications in the F-350 and 450 and 550. So it gets up to things like ambulances, shuttle buses in airports, utility trucks, and even dump trucks. But we account all of that volume in car. We account it all where we have the dominant application. Yeah, because we don't want to count the engine both as a car and as a truck engine. That would be a double counting. So it's all in Wave 3, V diesels beyond Europe. And we have the same consistent treatment for the Audi V6. We account all of the Audi V6 in Wave 1, which is V diesels in Europe, even though there are now sales of the engine in North America. Yeah, the dominant application is in Europe, so we account everything there. We don't know the split, so it's best just to put it in one place. And same for the VM Motori V6 that Tarquinio mentioned. We account all of it in Wave 3, V diesels beyond Europe, because the dominant application is the Ram 1500 pickup truck. We can look at the year-on-year growth for each of these categories. And of course, the split is similar this year as it was last year because the year-on-year growth is similar. And what we're very pleased with, again, is this growth in the others category. And that 40% growth, it comes from the VM Motori bed plate. We make both the cylinder block and the bed plate. And as the Ram volume has gone up, the VM Motori volume has gone up with it. Also for exhaust components for passenger vehicles here in Europe, that has gone up as the European market has recovered, something like 5 to 10% recovery in the last year. And most importantly, for the General Electric locomotive engine in North America. So the GE engine, for which we do the cylinder heads, is the only locomotive engine that has been approved for 2015 emissions. So at the moment, they have full market. And we've benefited from that a lot. So that's a review of the current production. Let's spend the rest of the presentation looking forward. And first we can look at the ramp up of the existing programs. As you saw in the plot, we have a very consistent growth trend. We have the potential to go above 2.5 million. And we've now had 6 consecutive quarters at or above record production. Now, many of you will remember approximately 10 years ago, SinterCast keyed on the US pickup market as a key growth opportunity, and we've now delivered on that. So we're in 4 of the 8 full-size pickup trucks in North America. And this is a very strong and stable category that we benefit from. And here we see in the graphic a list of the top 3 vehicles in the first 4 months of 2015. And we see that the Ford F-Series pickup, the Chevy Silverado, and the Ram 1500, where we have our diesel engine, are the top 3 best-selling vehicles in North America. And most analysts forecast that these vehicles will remain the top 3 bestsellers for the next 3 to 5 years. So it's a really stable and positive situation for us. Moving on, we can look at commercial vehicles. And here it's helpful for SinterCast that Europe is leading the way. It leads the way in technology. So the European OEMs are using more CGI than in other parts of the world. Some use it for blocks, like Scania. Some use it for cylinder heads, like Mercedes. And some use it for both block and head, like DAF and MAN. We benefit from Europe leading in independent design support. So here in Europe, we have AVL and FEV and Ricardo and Lotus, companies like that, who provide design support primarily for commercial vehicle applications. And they are very positive to CGI, and they promote CGI to their clients. And again, we benefit from that. With the exception of North America, most countries in the world are adopting Euro-style legislation. And so as they come to Euro-style challenges, it's likely that they will also adopt Euro-style solutions. And that will be CGI, either for block or for head or for both. And finally, we benefit from Europe leading in terms of the market approach. So in North America, historically, an owner-operator would buy a truck, and then he would buy an engine separately. For example, from Caterpillar or Cummins or Detroit Diesel or Navistar. Yeah. Whereas in Europe, the OEMs delivered trucks with engines in them. And I can remember in the early days, people in America saying that this would never change, or this would be very difficult to change. But actually, the European OEMs started buying the North American companies. And as they bought them, they brought their engine-in-truck philosophy to the market. And so now these things that we've developed here in Europe are being applied in North America. And we benefit from that in 2 ways. First, the added volume that comes, and secondly, the competitive benchmark that it establishes against the domestic suppliers. So I think that we can have a very good growth opportunity in commercial vehicles, both because the material is needed and because of the way these things are lining up for us. We can look at our penetration, and we're only active today in the Western market. So by that we mean Europe and North America. And the total volume of the market is about 4.5 million engine equivalents per year. Our current production is 725,000. So that's about 15% penetration. Of course, we're not the only ones providing CGI in the market. So if we look at the total penetration, it may be something like 25 to 30%. And that's a very strong penetration level. The total market globally would be approximately 15 million, with 6 million in China, 4.5 million in North America and Europe combined, and another 4.5 million in rest of world. And surely, as the design houses here are supplying CGI designs to the Asian clients, and as they're adopting Euro-style legislation, and as we've been growing our footprint in Asia with many installations recently, that should also come in our favor. Yeah, so we've positioned ourselves very well in that regard. The petrol engine, it has of course helped us with our recent increase in volumes. Tarquinio has mentioned it as an aluminum fighter, and it is indeed that. The ramp up so far is perfectly on schedule. It's been a very successful program. There's been a lot of positive reviews from journalists, and when I'm in North America, I frequently pop in at dealerships, and I talk with the dealers. Either I tell them I'm a supplier to the auto industry, or I might just go as a potential consumer. And I talk to them about the engines, whether it's the Ram or the Audis or the Ford F-150. And for the most part, the dealers really like the 2.7 liter engine. It has enough power and torque. It's very good from a noise point of view. And it's the best gasoline engine in the pickup sector for fuel economy. Yeah. So if you want a big vehicle like a pickup truck, as many people in America do, and you want good fuel economy, it's really the best of both worlds. I would like to share with you, and by the way, it's the only engine in the pickup sector with stop-start as standard. So again, another fuel economy benefit and an advantage that promotes that vehicle and that engine. So I'd like to share with you an overhead from a presentation made by Ford. This is a few months ago that they made this, and they were promoting the engine. And so this is all Ford's words inside of the red box. And let's see what each of those points means. So the cylinder block is made from CGI. It requires less material. So this is very important because less material means less energy in manufacturing, so there's an environmental benefit on the manufacturing side, but also less material in the vehicle. So again, fuel economy benefit. The overall length was reduced by approximately 40 millimeters. So now everything that goes the length of the engine, whether it's the cylinder heads or the crankshaft, the camshaft, even the fuel rails and the electrical harnesses, those are also 40 millimeters shorter, and we get a weight save from that reduction. Stiffer. Stiffer means less vibration. Less vibration means less noise. It means it's a quiet engine. And when you read the journalist reviews or you talk to the dealers, it's always one of the first things that they key on is how quiet the engine is. More compact. So it's a smaller package. When you open the hood in a vehicle nowadays, you see that there's not much space there. Yeah. So the smaller we make the engine, the easier it is for packaging. But what's more important is the crash safety. So the engine serves as a bridge to convey the impact from the front of the vehicle into the passenger compartment. And the smaller the engine, the less transfer of energy, so the safer the vehicle. The front end is allowed to crumple, right? We speak of the crumple zone. And so interestingly, the new Ford F-150 with the aluminum body has a 5-star crash rating, whereas the previous generation with a steel body had a 4-star crash rating. And that's partly our contribution by having a smaller engine in the front of the vehicle. And then finally, ending up with a similar weight to aluminum because of this downsizing, this 40 millimeter thing. And you know, if you can have the same weight as aluminum, why would you pay more for a less strong material? And this is the business case that Ford made up front to justify designing this engine in aluminum. And it's a very powerful message. We've said before that it's our first reference. It's the first high-volume petrol engine in the world. And we really hope that other OEMs will be motivated and challenged by it. And, you know, maybe that is starting now because it's only since December, January, February that other OEMs would have been able to buy the vehicle, to test drive it and to tear down and to inspect it. So hopefully that ball is now rolling, and of course we're promoting it when we go out and talk to OEMs or when we're making presentations. This is always a key feature of the benefit of CGI. Beyond the 5 waves, we've talked a little bit about it already. The automotive non-block-in stuff is up, non-block-in head stuff is up 14%. So again, this is the VM Motori bed plate benefiting from increased Ram sales, and exhaust manifolds benefiting from the improvement in the European economy. On the industrial power side, we're up 75%. This is primarily due to the General Motors locomotive in North America that I mentioned. We also have volume from compressor heads for the fracking industry in North America. Here in the graphic, you see the Deutz 7.8 liter engine that has a CGI cylinder head. So this is our first agricultural engine in production, and hopefully that motivates other agricultural companies to follow. And finally, the MTU cylinder head for mining, which we announced early in 2014. So all of these things have combined to give the 75% growth. What we want from this category is to try to hang on to the 10% level of the total production. It's going to be really difficult as the total volume goes up. We've been saying that for years, and we've been able to stay there. We've got a lot of other development in the industrial power sector, so let's hope that we can maintain that type of contribution. Of course, you get 75% from a rather low volume, yeah, because it's only 10% of our total, but it's really great to have that contribution. On the installation front, we have 3 installations already this year. You know, in many years, 3 installations was a good year. So it's the fastest start that we've ever had. There's a great opportunity for more. And I think that it's really fun to see how far we can take it before the end of the year. As ever, we have ongoing discussions for new installations, and we'll just keep pushing and see how many we can get. That's what we always do. We try to increase our footprint, yeah? Put our chess pieces in place so that when the CGI comes to the foundry, it automatically comes to us. And finally, on the ductile iron technology, well, we would like to ask you to leave that with us for a while longer. We're still developing that. We had the creativity to conceive it, but we didn't really have the resources to realize it. We've added to the resources. As you know, we've reinforced the technical team. The development has improved a lot over the last months. We've had a major rethink of the technology, trying to position the product better for the market and also to differentiate it more from our core CGI offering. But I think it's coming together really well, both on the thermal analysis side and also on the equipment side. So in conclusion, we have a great growth potential. The current programs can grow to more than 2.5 million. With the programs that Tarquinio referred to that are approved and in the pipe, and programs at other foundries, we have the opportunity to grow beyond 3 million engine equivalents and have continuous growth after that. 3 installations already, so a great opportunity for more before the end of the year. The ductile iron accelerating nicely, really good progress. We look forward to bringing that product to the market. The GIFA World Foundry Trade Fair is happening next month. So this is the world's largest foundry exhibition. It happens every 4 years in Düsseldorf. And it's a great opportunity for us to showcase our products and also to host our customers. And all of this gives us a great sense of achievement and motivation. It is the series production, the vehicles on the road, and the installations that we make in so many countries around the world, and even recently the positive media coverage. So it's really turned around, and people write positively about SinterCast, and they write in the spirit of, these guys have done what they said they would do. We built the technology and it worked. We presented CGI to the OEMs and they embraced it. We put up our targets in terms of the 5 waves and we hit them. And we would all like it to be bigger and faster, but still it is a good story. And as you see from the picture in the middle of this overhead, we want our shareholders to join us and to share in that sense of achievement and motivation. We couldn't have done this thing as 2 guys in the back of a garage. We needed the critical mass and the credibility that came from the shareholder support. And for that, on behalf of the board and the employees, we ask that you join us in the sense of achievement and pride, and we say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.